A new Wordle puzzle is online. Click on the link to play.
Listening to the following video may give you clues. Please like and share the videos.
Warren Buffett gives investors details about spending over $51 billion in the first quarter. On Wednesday, Warren Buffett gave his annual letter to Berkshire Hathaway investors.
He explained how he spent over $1 billion and reassured them that the company would continue to grow even after he dies. Thousands of people packed the Omaha Arena to hear Buffett's speech.
Though the meeting was cancelled last year because of the cholera pandemic, it returned after the pandemic. It used to draw 40,000 people.
Berkshire Hathaway's first quarter earnings. While the stock market swooned and the economy faltered, the first quarter earnings report from Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway was a mixed bag for investors.
The company sold $6.1 billion in April and repurchased just over $1 billion of its own stock. However, these actions were much lower than the year-ago period.
Still, a number of analysts rate Berkshire as a miser. First quarter earnings from Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway revealed a net billion profit.
While most companies in this sector are in the financial sector, the company also has interests in industrial and commercial sectors. Its large holding in Apple shares explains a 13% rise in the cost base of consumer products stocks, and a nearly $41 billion increase in the company's total net worth.
This report also revealed that Buffett's holdings in the insurance giant Allegheny White and the printer maker HP soared nearly $1 billion in value as a result. Investors should focus on operating results of Berkshire Hathaway's companies as opposed to net results, since unrealized gains are usually reported with the net results.
However, Berkshire's results don't cover all the nuances of the business. Its biggest concerns, namely the spread of COVID-19 and the invasion of the Ukraine, may have impacted the results.
Further, chip shortages dampened consumer shipping volumes at BNSF and reduced sales at Berkshire Hathaway automotive car dealership. So while a new management team may come in the future, the Berkshire board members met on Saturday.
In addition to announcing its earnings, Berkshire also announced the purchase of an $11.6 billion stake in Allegheny. As the meeting's attendees, Buffett also answered questions from investors.
Some investors attended the meeting for the first time, including Heiichiro Okamoto, who lives in Japan. Buffett is sticking to a winning formula.
Although Berkshire Hathaway is a net seller of stocks for the fourth quarter in a row, it has continued to buy and sell stocks. The firm also bought Royalty Pharma and Floor & Decor, giving investors exposure to biotech stocks.
It also exited shares in Bristol Myers Squibb and Merck. Berkshire's cash pile.
Investors can learn a lot about the company from Warren Buffett's annual letter. This year, the company reported $106 billion in cash, compared to $147 billion at the start of the year.
The first quarter saw Buffett spend $1 billion on stocks, according to the letter he sent to Berkshire shareholders on Feb 26.
The next 3 weeks saw Buffett spend $40 billion on stocks, while $4.6 billion was spent on a single day in early March. Berkshire Hathaway did not pay a dividend this year, but instead rewarded its shareholders by buying their own stock.
This month, the company bought $2 billion in its own stock, increasing earnings per share. Although Berkshire shares fell 9 in April, they will still be up 8 by 2022 compared to the 26th 500.
That's a better than average return on investment for a large company. Though he didn't say exactly what he bought, Buffett did say that he increased his stake in Chevron from $6.9 billion to $26 billion.
Another major conglomerate investment, Occidental Petroleum, was worth billions of dollars more than it was in the beginning of the year. Berkshire also increased its stake in Apple PL by over 14.
Those are just a few examples of the latest purchases made by the legendary investor. The average annual return for an investor who made the same amount of money as Buffett is around 22%.
If Buffett had stopped investing when he was 60, his net worth would be $9 million. The wealth of Buffett's company is likely related to his financial base in his pubescent years and longevity in his geriatric years.
By average annual return, Buffett is the richest investor of all time. But he's far from the greatest. Berkshire's investment portfolio.
The founder of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, has an interesting principle when it comes to investing. He once invested in 1942 in the SIP 26 500.
Today, that $114 would be worth over $4 million. Even more amazing is that he spent just over $5 million of that money on the same stock just 2 years later, making the investment a good one.
In fact, he has invested so much money into this company, it's become one of the biggest investors in the world. Earth's latest regulatory filing by Berkshire Hathaway disclosed that the company has spent over $1 billion on stocks during the first quarter of 2019.
In that same filing, he reported that Chevron was the biggest single investment, up from $6 billion at the end of the fourth quarter. In addition, he has committed $11.6 billion to buying insurance company Allegheny Corp., adding to his massive Apple investment.
In the first quarter of 2022, Berkshire Hathaway reported $106 billion in cash. This was down from $1 billion at the beginning of the year.
The company spent over $51 billion in stocks, while spending another $3.2 billion on repurchasing its own shares. In other words, Berkshire Hathaway spent over $51 billion on stocks in 3 weeks.
And this is just one stock. In 2022, Berkshire Hathaway will spend even more than that in equities.
Berkshire Hathaway also maintains a large cash reserve. The company maintains at least $20 billion in cash equivalents, but it may have more.
This means that the company invests in money management and limits its exposure to short-term market fluctuations. Though Buffett does sometimes act on these fluctuations, he recommends newer investors use low-cost index funds.
They are the best way to make a profit in the stock market. The investment philosophy of Warren Buffett has become famous for its consistent outperformance against the S&P 500 index.
His investment philosophy emphasizes investing in blue-chip companies with solid balance sheets. Apple and Coca-Cola are two of his largest holdings.
Apple alone is worth $157.5 billion, and Apple represents nearly half of his portfolio. So, what are some of his favorite stocks? In short, the best stocks are the ones with long-term growth potential.
Warren Buffett's investment philosophy. At a Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting in 2018, Warren Buffett revealed that he prefers Google to search for information.
While he was raised as a Presbyterian, he later described himself as an agnostic. In 2006, he did not have a cell phone.
He did not even have a computer on his desk. His car was a Cadillac DTS.
In 2013, he owned an old Nokia flip phone and had only sent one email. In addition, Warren Buffett has packed his company's $343 billion investment portfolio with cyclical businesses.
While these companies generally do well when the U.S. economy is expanding, they do poorly when a recession hits.
This makes sense since he knows that recessions are inevitable but are short-lived, lasting only a couple of quarters or months. Conversely, periods of economic expansion last for years.
Although many investors are tempted to invest in emerging technologies, Warren Buffett is sticking to traditional business models, which have been proven to produce great returns for investors. Jeremy Rifkin has called for a third industrial revolution, but he resisted this idea.
It is also important to remember that Buffett made mistakes over the course of his career, but he was always open about them and his shortcomings. In 2011, he purchased the Omaha World-Herald, a newspaper that he reads every day.
He is also an avid reader of 5 newspapers a day. Despite his wealth, he continues to read 5 newspapers every day.
His personal reading habits make it easy to understand how he manages to spend over $51 billion of his own money. And it seems he isn't just the only investor in the world who's been able to invest as a billionaire.
Despite his massive Apple investment, Berkshire Hathaway did not reveal exactly what stocks he bought in the first quarter. However, it is notable that he increased his stake in Chevron from $5 billion to $1 billion.
He also added billions to its stake in Occidental Petroleum, OPD, while spending more than $51 billion on Apple. But while there are many cash-generating resources for his investment portfolio, the investor has assured himself that his reserves will not run dry.